Hello everyone. Today we're going to be talking about illegal streaming sites for this ethical presentation. So without further ado, let's hop into it. So the situation today is that illegal streaming sites have played a part in deteriorating the media as we know it, especially cable television. And this provides a more desirable cost of a viewing experience for people that use these illegal streaming sites as opposed to cable TV, satellite TV, or other subscription services. And while it may be free, the level of convenience and control that these website builders have can create additional drawbacks that are deemed unethical because they could damage not just the website builders' careers, but also yours, even if you're viewing it. And you might not even notice how it could affect your career. So starting off with some key terms: piracy, the unauthorized use or reproduction of another person's work. That's going to be important as we go on throughout this presentation. And two words that go hand in hand with that is that copyright infringement rule. Not the rule word, but copyright infringement are the two words that go hand in hand with piracy. So the main argument that's posed as to why you should use illegal streaming sites, first of all, it's free. Second of all, there's less advertisements. Sometimes there's no advertisements. It all depends on the website that you're viewing from. And there's also generally no need to put any personal information on these sites. You don't need verification of a credit card or social security number or anything like that. Why you should not use illegal streaming sites, the main argument is, or so you think, is what they say. Because, all this seems so good, but how true is it? The effects of piracy, I have a video here by the National IPR Center. It talks about some of the safety concerns that come with piracy and illegal streaming sites. So I'm just going to play it. It's about 30 seconds long, and we'll react to it.
I'm Steve Francis with the National Intellectual Property Rights Coordination Center. We're all staying home more often, so the demand for entertainment is high. Criminals are taking advantage of that demand by offering illegal services that provide movies, TV shows, and live programming. But there's a catch. These illegal services can deliver malware that enables hackers to steal your credit card information, your bank passwords, and even your identity. Don't be a victim. Stream safely from legitimate sources. For more information, visit the National Intellectual Property Rights Coordination Center website or streamsafely.com.
Credit card info, bank passwords, these are keywords that would jump out to me just from watching that. Those are the two websites down there. From the IPR Center website, though, these are some of the stats on the right side that were from there. So I don't know what would jump out to you necessarily, but for me, I'm a fan of money. So $822 million that was lost being promoted through these illegal streaming sites is huge. This isn't something that you can just shove to the side. And of course, that was from the fiscal year of 2021 as well. It's only going to keep growing as the internet keeps growing as well. Pirated video material receives more than 230 billion views a year. You do the math here, 8 billion people in the world, 365 days a year. That's per person, roughly 29 views a year. Doesn't seem like a whole lot, but then, it's almost like once a month that every person will be viewing pirated video material. Over 80% of global online piracy is attributed to illegal streaming services. The other 20% mainly highlighted through OEM unbundling or hard disk loading. Digital video piracy costs the U.S. economy between 29 and 71 billion each year, which is even crazier compared to the number we were just checking, but that number will still have an effect later as we keep going on. 126.7 billion viewings worth of U.S. produced television episodes are pirated each year. So we play the same game as the first point on this page. There's roughly about 330 million people in the United States. It comes out to about 384 views of pirated material viewed by a U.S. citizen every year. That's more than once a day basis by every single American, which is crazy. 70,000 jobs a year are lost in the United States due to music piracy. And that's a big reason why, cybersecurity jobs, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, are expected to rise by 33% from 2020 until 2030. Annual global revenue losses from digital piracy between about 40 to around 100 billion in the movie industry, which, it's even larger than the digital video piracy stat we mentioned up there. An illegal transmission of copyrighted material takes up 24% of the global bandwidth, almost like 1/4 of the data transmission through these routers. Illegal copyrighted material. Just crazy. How has it contributed to the fall of cable TV? TV ratings are suffering, and it's all your fault. Now, not everyone is using illegal streaming sites, so not your fault in that regard, but it's still cable TV's fault. It still is everyone's fault to a degree using subscription services like Hulu and Paramount Plus. American cable and TV viewing has plummeted by 20% since 2015, and newsflash, it's going to keep dropping. 71% of the people who don't watch in this way say the reasoning is because they can already access what they want to see online. And that's true about illegal streaming sites, first of all, from these streaming apps, from YouTube, from Twitch. These all provide a much easier, more convenient way of a viewing experience than simply have to watching whatever you want to watch at the time that it airs on live TV. Other reasons include being too costly or low desire to watch frequently. I mean, we mentioned this earlier as a regard to illegal streaming sites. The biggest reason, it's free. And American streaming services earned more than $24 billion in 2020. We go back to the 822 million number earlier regarding how much was lost through illegal streaming sites. It's almost 1/25th, which is roughly 4%, and that's what's recorded. Some of these sites, they don't have the stats for because they haven't found them yet, and the internet's going to keep growing, so that percentage is only going to keep going up more and more and more, probably to 10-20%, which is about 1 in every 5, 1 in every 10 people using illegal streaming sites compared to American streaming services. The impact on Nielsen ratings. Now, I grew up on Nickelodeon, so I decided to put it in here. Shows like iCarly, Victorious, Henry Danger, and Danger Force, just to look at a few. iCarly topped at about 11 million at its peak. And then after that came Victorious, this is in chronological order, topped at about 6 million, which is still pretty good. It's just not on the par with iCarly in terms of the viewership. Henry Danger topped at about 3 million, which of the 97 iCarly episodes, only 4 did not top that 3 million mark, and all of those came in the very last season. Victorious, 47 of 57 shows had a higher viewership than that as well, and 24 Henry Danger episodes did not top 1 million viewers. And speaking of, Henry Danger, it's going to look like a great show compared to Danger Force because it's had 40 episodes. Not one of them has been over 1 million. And again, the internet plays a role, YouTube plays a role, streaming services plays a role, like subscription apps, but also illegal streaming sites plays a role, like TV shows 88, or like crack streams for the NBA, for an example. Top-rated NBA Finals was in 1998, the Bulls and Jazz. Second was in 1993, the Bulls and the Suns. I mean, Michael Jordan is a big reason as to why, but of course part of it is because we're not living in this era where illegal streaming sites exist to the extent that they did in 1998 or 1993, or also subscription apps. But again, illegal streaming sites plays a role. The worst rated finals was in 2020, which was the Lakers and Heat, 2 big markets, LA and Miami. Second was in 2021, the Bucks and the Suns. I mean, Milwaukee and Phoenix aren't quite the same market as that, but it's still kind of surprising because, in 2020, you could look at the pandemic as that was a big role as to why it was so low. But then in 2021, it was the second lowest ever. I mean, that's crazy. It dropped by 37% from before the pandemic to after the pandemic. And as you can see on there, like I got SpongeBob and I got NBC. NBC was pulling some of the best ratings for the finals. Now they switched to ABC since. Maybe that has a role with it. Same thing with SpongeBob over here is, at his peak, he was getting about 6-7 million views every episode. Most recent season, not one episode had over 1 million views. And the Patrick Star fan favorite special was the worst rated ever. So I guess it wasn't a fan favorite after all. But again, as you can see down here, like these 2 streaming sites play a big role in it as well. It might be hard to see, but from crack streams, you could watch not just NBA games, but UFC, NFL, and that's probably a big reason why the NFL and Nickelodeon team up every year, for now, at least for the wild card games, as they have like the Nickelodeon Bowl. Does it fall an ethical outline? just to summarize, I went on Quora, just wanted to see what people were saying about this. And the argument for yes is pretty funny because basically the argument describes how it's not unethical to stream something for free that's now worthless. It's something that will bring harm to you mentally and physically, and something that's fattening or mind numbing and a waste of television. That is cable television. They're basically just slandering TV nowadays. It's not good enough content. Whereas the no side is that they make a living through copyright, and they wouldn't do something to try and shortage someone as a copyright holder unless it was used for free for a promotional purpose, which does make sense. In an ethical reasoning, that does make sense. The yes argument, it's very subjective. Even though it's funny, and it might be true to an extent in most people's eyes, it's not something that you can depend on in an ethical argument. Philosophy of the frameworks. This is how I believe each framework would respond to these questions, this big question. Kant would say something like, it's not licensed, not ethical. Simple. A utilitarian would want you to study your surroundings and maybe make the decision to provide this or to use these illegal streaming sites if you don't have to provide personal info and there's no data search on the devices. Basically a lot of work. Aristotle would not recommend it, but to do thorough research and balance out your pros and your cons per se. A communitarianism would probably just suggest to watch party groups. If you guys are familiar with watch parties, that's an example, one down there in the bottom left. And then Rawls would say just buy it. Because you might not have necessarily the money to consistently buy a streaming service, a subscription, but if you buy it, you're going to put yourself at way less risk of actually getting in trouble using illegal streaming services. So in a way, I understand what the utilitarian argument is saying, and maybe you could get away with that. I wouldn't recommend it either, so I guess I'm kind of being like Aristotle here, but I think what Kant is saying, there's nothing that's been proven otherwise to avoid that. The only thing that we've come close to saying it would be good to use it is that cable TV sucks now, and that's completely subjective. You can't really rely on that in an ethical argument. So the conclusion is that morally the word illegal implies being forbidden and criminal, which by default would make it an unethical gesture. Now we could weigh out where on the unethical charts it would land, because in terms of the most unethical things you could do, the biggest crimes, I mean obviously something like murder or robbing a bank is going to be near the top or something like that. This would be a lot lower, but at the same time still falls somewhere in that category. You can't just say like it's kind of fair game, kind of like that doesn't slide here. It doesn't slide here. Maybe they could restructure the media limitations on unlicensed streaming sites to a degree for stuff that could be accessed through restaurants or stores, like watching sports games like at Buffalo Wild Wings or something like that. And maybe they could be a little bit more lenient on these rules in the media or through online streaming. But like I said, the main theme here is protecting rights and copyright infringement above anything else. And in a way, this would be like a bucket list version of breaking the law, because you could say, oh yeah, I broke a law and stuff like that, but you're not really doing anything that's too wrong. But of course, it is technically breaking the law, but it's not anything you're doing that's too severe. Like, people would probably ask you what you did, and then you'd probably feel embarrassed to share that information because it doesn't seem like a huge crime, even though it does fall under that category. In a way, it's kind of like IRL Mario Party, and that's something else I like, so I had to put it in here, is that you're willing to take risks of potentially hurting your own career or other bad outcomes happening your way, losing your personal information, your identity, as mentioned in the National IPR Center video, and you're willing to exchange currency, whether it be actual money or your personal information. So that's just the way I see it, and I wouldn't say it's necessarily an ethical thing. So yeah, I just don't see any way where this can be deemed as ethical. But that's all I got, and I hope you guys enjoyed the presentation. And yeah, that's it for me. Thank you.